Hello and welcome to ET Studios AI Horizons in association with ETCIO. I'm Himanshi Tiwari, your host for this episode. Now, AI is not just a buzzword. The AI proliferation is actually being regarded as a part of the fourth industrial revolution. And with AI Horizons, we have actually covered a lot of sectors in AI. And for this particular episode, we have with us Professor Arvind Sahay, Director, MDI Gurgaon. Professor, it's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Pleasure to be here, Himanshi.
All right. Thank you. So, sir, in our past episodes, we have actually talked about the impact, the use of AI in beauty, in water, in defense, in multiple sectors. And today we are actually really excited to talk to you about the use of AI in education, in the job market, which is really very essential for us. And even the government of India has taken AI really very seriously at this point in time. And they have actually constituted 4 committees when it comes to AI. So I really want to start by asking you, Professor, how do you see the AI landscape in India currently, and where do we actually stand today?
Thanks, Himanshi. That's actually a very, very broad question. So I'm trying to think of how to parse that question. Let me start out in terms of the AI landscape in India. I think India is in a good place overall. We are looking at some of the foundational models like ChatGPT 4o or Claude or Gemini, and we are then building on them. Now, if you look at the application of AI, you mentioned water, you mentioned health, or even in education. Ultimately, the benefit from AI comes when you are able to customize it.
Yeah.
A foundational model in and of itself starts to hallucinate pretty quickly. Without additional data which is particular to that field. So when we are looking at skilling, jobs, education, what we need to have are those domain experts who provide the data to the AI to be able for the AI to become learned like the domain expert. So right now, a general purpose AI foundational model with some level of additional data might have the general intelligence, if I can call it that, of maybe a 6, 7, 8-year-old. Can it get to an 18-year-old person with an IQ of, let's say, 120? That will happen. And I don't exactly know when, but it will happen. But it's in a little bit in the future. Now, where are we in that landscape from an Indian perspective? So I was at this conclave of people in Mumbai about a month ago, where an ex-CEO of Infosys had this interesting take on the total number of people in the world who are associated with AI. So his estimate was that there are 180 million people out of a population of 7.2 billion who are using AI, but there are only 50,000 engineers, AI engineers, who can create or build on foundational models and can work more. And out of those 50,000, a large majority is based in the US, some in China, and a few here in India. So in terms of the ability to produce foundational models, perhaps we are not yet there. In terms of the ability to use foundational models to create customized AI assistants, if you will, for particular areas, whether in teaching or in other areas, there I think we are a little bit ahead of the curve. We have many more people in India. Simply the fact that the software industry employs like 6, 7 million people directly gives us the heft to move quickly in that area. And the large companies, the TCSs, the Infosys, the Wipros, the HCL Tech Mahindras, they are investing very quickly and heavily in AI. I think the largest of these probably has 300 or 400 AI projects running right now. The government of India has also woken up to the fact that AI is in many ways the future. And therefore, we are beginning to look at regulation in that area. So where are we in the landscape of AI? Kind of a mixed bag. As an Indian citizen, I would want us to be able to create more foundational models in our own language. So for example, the Japanese are creating the equivalent of ChatGPT in Japanese, because right now ChatGPT is trained in English, and English doesn't have many of the nuances that the Japanese language has. Similarly, Hindi or Tamil, for that matter, will have many nuances that English cannot have, or Urdu, for that matter. Iqbal as a word, it doesn't have an equivalent in English, right?
Yeah.
So we need to be able to create our own foundational models. People are working on that. The good news is that because now you have a template, it is now available for you to create those foundational models. One of the things which bothers me, concerns me, intrigues me also is the sheer energy consumption that we are using to create and run these large LLM models. Training ChatGPT by OpenAI took more than 150 days, and must have consumed more than a few million units of energy, which would have powered tens of thousands of homes. And every day, the 200 million queries take a lot of energy. It takes 25,000 NVIDIA A100 class GPU server class microprocessors to generate something like this, and a few hundreds to run it. So it's very, very energy intensive. So that's another dimension that we need to be careful about as we invest more in AI. And we don't really have a choice. We will invest more in AI. But how we do it, when we do it, and how much energy we consume are factors that we need to take into account, given the summer that we've just gone through, where temperatures have, gone through the roof. So I hope that gives you a sense of what the lay of the land is in terms of AI. I think the need of the hour for India is to create its own foundational models, and then to be able to create specifics tailored to the particular area, education or health or water, policy making. I was discussing that the other day with a gentleman from Kerala. He's an advisor to one of the state governors, and we got to talking about how AI can help in policy making. And clearly, there is a way for AI to help in policy making. AI in the interpretation of law. That's another area where there are people who are doing work. There was a legal brief where the other day I had requested someone that I know to give me some inputs on a legal question, and I needed the input quite quickly. And he came back within a few hours, and he told me that the only reason I'm able to come back is because I deployed AI to do the first cut. And then based on that first cut, I was able to get one of my associates to give me a first draft, which I then worked on based on my own knowledge, and therefore that's how I was able to do it. So people are using it. I think there's enough creativity in this country for us to do a lot. How we take it forward, of course, then depends on us, whether it's in education or any other field.
As of now, where we stand in terms of AI, there are still a lot of ethical considerations that we need to make. But in your point of view, what are those ethical framework that needs to be built at this point in time when it comes to AI?
So the ethical point is about how much. So there are multiple ones, but let me focus on the top three. The first one that I would argue to you, where we need to take a call on ethical considerations of AI, has to do with the decision-making rights. Right? At what point do I let the AI take a decision independently? Versus when it comes to the decision, the AI gives me the choice to say I will take alternative 1 versus 2 versus 3. There are some media reports which suggest that this time in the Israel-Hamas war, that Israel deployed AI to actually target Hamas leadership and their families. And this was done independent of any human judgment or decision making. Now, if that is true, most of us would argue that that's completely unethical. You cannot do that. You cannot allow an AI or a robot to take the decision to take a human life. So where is the decision-making right? At what point are you giving the decision-making right? So that would be the number one thing. Number two in AI in terms of ethicality is what we talked about, reducing the potential to do harm. And you can reduce, because ultimately AI is going to get used by humans. And wherever humans use it, there will be some good humans and there will be others not so good humans. And some of them are going to misuse it. And you can mitigate the effects of that by doing this watermarking, which is what we talked about just now, right? So just like explosives have a watermark, all AI products, and we are reaching there soon. We will be able to buy AI off the shelf as a personal assistant. They should have watermarks, so you don't have stuff like deep fakes. Deep fakes can cause lots of problems, and using AI today, it's very easy to do a deep fake.
We have actually seen a lot of deep fake cases when it comes to our Bollywood with our politicians as well.
With the politicians as well. So that's the second one. The first one is that you figure out very cleanly where the decision-making rights are. Second, you have the watermarking. Third is some kind of, again, this is a policy-related issue. How much do you want AI as a class of tool to develop? For human beings, at some point, AI will become superior to every human being on earth, right? It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Now, knowing the human nature for negative stuff, we pay more attention to negative rather than positive. To me, an area of concern is, at what point, up to what point do I allow AI to develop? This AGI that you're talking about, should it even be allowed to come into existence? And I'm reminded of, Terminator, this franchise, right? It all looks like science fiction when I first saw it back in '84. But increasingly, I'm saying maybe it's not science fiction.
Yeah. This is what I'm thinking while talking to you, that it looks like a plot of a sci-fi movie, but it's true, it's real, and it's scary also at some point in time. But as we are moving close to this discussion, you have an expertise in neuroscience. You teach neuroscience, you have an expertise in consumer behavior. And just before this conversation, we were talking about how neuroscience and AI are the two sides of the same coin. So can you just talk about a little bit on why did you say that? Because that's really interesting to me.
Okay. So if you look at AI models are premised on patterns, repeating patterns, and how you take data and how you then use the data in particular ways. So the basic foundational, not the foundational AI models, but the basic foundational, in early days, expert system, now artificial intelligence models are built on neural nets. This is connected to that, this is connected to that. And therefore, when there is an output from these connections, these are the connections which were used in a particular way. So the way the brain works is very similar, right?
Yeah.
How do we think? How do we make decisions? So the brain makes decisions through these connections. And there is a very interesting dimension of how the brain works, that you have a top-down and a bottom-up approach. So the bottom-up is the data that is coming in real time from the environment. Right now, I'm talking to you, I'm looking at your expression on the face, I'm looking at the camera, and my brain is looking at that input that is coming in, which is called bottom-up. And then I have a top-down processor unit, if you can call it that, in my head, which is the sum total of all my previous data that has been collected and distilled into an experience, and some heuristics and thumb rules that I use. So top-down, bottom-up data coming, top-down past experiences coming together, and me then coming to a decision, right? And when the information that is coming up is at variance with what I know from my top-down, then a cycle comes into being, which kind of says, okay, why is there this discrepancy? How can we resolve it? Is there something different that is happening? And do I then need to refashion the top model that I have, the mental model that I have? So in a sense, my brain is a predictive machine. It very frequently will not look at the entirety of the bottom-up data that is coming in real time from the environment. It will look at a part of it and it will predict this is what the rest of it is, and then it will start behaving in that way. So in a sense, AI models also do the same thing, right? They are prediction engines, except that the prediction engines, especially for large language models, are about which word will come next to this word and then the next one and the next one. And that is based on word vectors, right? There was these guys at Google, I think, who wrote up that first paper in 2017, where they kind of built, based on really complicated math, that this is how you can predict what the next word will be in a particular sequence, right? So LLM especially is in a way a logical culmination of this top-down and bottom-up thing. It is predicting based on what it is seeing in terms of the words that are coming.
And both can be biased.
And both can be biased. Exactly right.
Thank you, Professor, for joining us today for this episode. And to our viewers, stay tuned for more such videos only on ET Studios AI Horizons in association with ETCIO.